Hello everyone and welcome. Sit back, relax, make a cup of tea or whatever you like to drink and get ready for news stories from Yellowcat. Send your own favorite stories in the comments below and maybe they'll be in our new video. So subscribe to the channel if you're not subscribed yet, and let's get started. What did your boss do that instantly destroyed employee morale? Part 7. I used to be employed in the life insurance division of a sizable multinational bank. The department was so far behind schedule on their work that even before I started, morale was pretty low, so I was hired as a summer temp. The corrective morale measures that were put in place were the first thing I noticed that completely destroyed morale. You were required to anonymously complete the feeling barometer every week, which measured stress, happiness, and other variables. The following Monday, we discussed the results. It quickly became apparent that, rather than listening to any concerns, our boss would spend approximately an hour passive-aggressively disputing and rationalizing the results if they weren't perfect. Everyone just started lying in the questionnaire, making it an absolute Kafkaesque waste of time and a reminder of how pointless talking to the management in the end was. This would only take up valuable time and cause anyone to fall further behind in their work. That was one thing. Another was entirely what killed my initiative and motivation. In addition to processing claims, I did some basic Excel accounting, but the company's in-house claims management software was a complete nightmare. The program was taught to me in an almost superstitious manner. I was expected to click on everything, and the routes were ridiculously complicated. The primary issue was that the application had to use servers located in a different nation each time you advanced to the next screen. The program's bandwidth was crazily throttled, which meant that in the busiest parts of the workday, you could easily wait for the screen to load for 30 seconds. Moreover, the way I was taught to do it required you to go through about 8 screens, which made processing claims extremely slow and caused us to consistently be behind schedule on our workload. Thus, I began tinkering with the software to reduce the screen size, making use of the hotkeys in the applications, learning how to use accounting Excel, and timing myself. After making minor adjustments to the route and hotkeys, I was able to complete a claim in an average of 2 minutes and 40 seconds compared to the regular route's 4 to 6 minute completion time. Additionally, I was able to fill out Excel forms almost twice as quickly. I told the boss what I discovered along with my hotkeys and statistics and thought it'd be helpful to implement this at the departmental level. I thought she would take it further, but she didn't. I told her to F it and kept it to myself after she simply suggested that I email it to the higher-ups and showed no more interest. If she wasn't interested, I wasn't going to waste my work time on this because my only interest in the company was my temp's meager pay. For going above and beyond, what was my reward? I was so fast at doing other people's work that I ended up taking on about 3 people's claims and accounting on my own, which is how I got carpal tunnel syndrome. F that place. At my previous job, there was a laundry list. Small window treatment business owned by a family. I never got to meet the owner because he was very sick, but his wife managed the 2 locations of the business in his place, and regrettably, the manager of the location I was at completely exploited the situation. And I took a lot of the abuse personally, mainly because the other office girl was on maternity leave for the majority of the 4 months or so I was there. The owner's wife disregarded my advice regarding the manager, despite the fact that the 6 or so other people who had left because of them had also told her the same things. They had left because she had threatened to fire them when they had told her about the manager. The manager was perplexed and became hostile toward me as soon as I left. This is my former co-worker's Indeed review of the establishment. It contains no identifying information. Despite being a wall of text, it covers everything. Reconciling credit card transactions from the previous day, answering customer calls, setting up designer, installation, and repair appointments, receiving and sorting deliveries, organizing project files, monitoring installer performance, dispatching installers, managing the online database for clients and projects, processing QuickBooks transactions, managing some AR and AP for the branch, providing the owner's family with $50 checks on demand for no work done, commonly multiple times a week, helping customers in the showroom, and maintaining a clean workspace were all part of a typical workday. It was very easy to stay busy during the downtime, and sometimes the work would come in a mad rush with everyone clamoring for your immediate attention. You had to be able to assign and prioritize tasks. Both the owner and the owner's wife I never met. They didn't seem interested in talking to me at all, but I did have some limited contact with both of them. Regretfully, the way the management behaved was quite lacking. Such unacceptable behavior included calling employees names, giving them long lectures about procedure even though the employee didn't know it, and lecturing them about things they were doing because the owner had trained them. Even when workers agreed, management would constantly quarrel with them. Both behind their backs and in front of them, management made fun of the staff. The management brought their unhousebroken dog in and failed to clean up after it, causing the carpets to get ruined and the showroom to smell. Workers in the office were preventing lunch unless they resolved the issue. The management's encouragement of rumors was detrimental and killed employee morale. It was almost impossible to complete some tasks because management would frequently give instructions and then claim they were never given. Management threatened to fire or resign from their positions if they continued to be friends with those who left. After hours, management would email or call staff members demanding that they call former coworkers and make false accusations against them or in other ways harass them. Employees who had previously complained to the CEO about management-related concerns were threatened with termination if they didn't learn to put up with the harassment. Official complaints against management are not shielded from retaliation by upper management. Near midnight, when customers post negative reviews on the internet, employees receive harassing calls at home. I found the work itself to be enjoyable. Both my coworkers and the customers were enjoyable. I thought the owner's support of the management was appalling, and the management itself was toxic. That's it. Even though the work contained a significant amount of redundancies, they were always justified and never overbearing. I didn't even mind staying late to finish less important tasks in order to make sure I finished everything in time for the following day. I was fired because I respectfully requested in writing that management refrain from using foul language towards me while I was performing my duties, as advised by an online article on how to deal with a difficult boss. I had assumed that I could just perform my job well and overlook the lack of professionalism. I worked in the early 2000s at a call center. About 40 workers reported absenteeism one day. This was a facility with several hundred workers. Among them, I suffered from bilateral pneumonia compounded by my asthma. Not just that one day, but I was gone for nearly a week. It dawned on someone higher up the hierarchy that those 40 workers had purposefully planned to call in that day together. I'm not sure if that's true or not. All I know is that in my case, no one had reached out to me to arrange a coup or anything. I also had a ton of paperwork from my physician. However, as a result of the conspiracy theory, a written discipline was given to every caller that day. In many cases, this went against company policy because, according to HR, the first step should have been verbal, followed by written, 3 write-ups, and then you're done. Even if I'd been part of some coup, I should have only received verbal discipline because I had a spotless record. But no, everyone who reported that day received a letter, and those who reported for the 3rd time were fired. Regardless of the notes from the doctor, I doubt I was the only one who was genuinely ill. In any case, many chose to give up rather than adopt the discipline. After a few years, the location was closed. Do you have any absurd tales to tell about your HOA, COA, or neighbors? Part 7. Here's the HOA where I live. 350K plus houses. It was a great neighborhood with a friendly HOA when I first moved in. Then Mitch appeared. Feels he's a major stud, among other things. Wanted to install a 30K dock that everyone would have to pay for. I thought a friend should have done it, but after all this time I can't prove it. Rather, after I cause a great deal of agitation, it's completed for roughly 10K to 12K. The dock is being replaced because a woman here was hurt when she fell through. When she called Mitch, he informed her that insurance was meant for other people and that she could not use it to file a claim with the HOA, who were responsible for maintaining the dock. And his spouse is an insurance worker. I wonder if that was a lie. After all, the woman chooses not to sue the HOA even though she had the option to, and Mitch rewards her generosity by fining her for making a late payment rather than allowing her to pay the dues in installments. Then he informs me that I'll be penalized because, I'm not kidding, there's a weed in my flower bed. When I complained to my neighbor about how his lawn was being destroyed, all he said was that he didn't want to talk about it, and now there are knee-high weeds where his lawn used to be. This is because he was too cheap to water. The neighbor occasionally used his boat as a clothesline to dry their dirty laundry, and it was always parked on their driveway. We became known as the ex-Billies. He gets the rules changed so that, instead of owners being able to petition for changes, only the HOA board is able to make changes. I'm receiving notices for $100-day fines for various offenses like unsightly weeds, driving not maintained, faded paint, and untrimmed shrubs. Basically, anything that's deemed subjective is considered an offense. After doing some research, I find that the woman owns an $80,000 condo. And now here she is, scaring the heck out of me and everyone else in the neighborhood with ridiculous $100-day fines for offenses that, if someone would just say, could be fixed in minutes, or $5 if they had to hire someone. I've paid a lawyer a few $1,000 or more to defend myself against this foolishness. I should have filed a complaint with the Florida Department of Consumer Protection sooner. I had assembled a large document that includes screenshots of my targeted usage, including identical photos that appeared on different violation notices. Imagine $1,000 because someone could see a trash can behind a bush if they positioned themselves exactly on the edge of the street and leaned in at the right angle. That's what I had noticed about too. The neighborhood, which had about 70 homes, pays about $8,000 a year for the privilege of having an HOA manager who can oversee behavior and enforce rules. Thus, every individual present bears some financial responsibility for this year after year. When the few people in attendance were choosing to go with the HOA manager, I warned them that this would happen, but they didn't care, and they still don't care if it doesn't happen to them. Ironically, I really thought that once Mitch moved in, the rules would be followed because my nasty neighbor was already letting his lawn grow weeds and would loudly rev his boat every Saturday morning. However, that's Mitch if you've ever watched Star Trek, where they're dropped on a planet where the aliens feed off conflict. Not mine, but a southern-dwelling family friend. He was trying to abide by the rules as he worked on his property. He had permission from the HOA to dig up a portion of his lawn in order to install a walkway. He was bitten by a copperhead snake one day, but it wasn't until he started feeling sick that he realized what had happened to him. In passing, he was aware that a snake had bitten him, but at first he failed to identify it as a copperhead. He therefore assumed it was a garden snake and decided to treat the bite with antiseptic and other materials, thinking he could see a doctor the following day. Though he wasn't in any danger of dying or anything, it had really taken a toll on him by the time he reached a medical professional. And it took him about a week and a half or so to feel well enough to work in his yard again. He now had a deadline to complete the project, but it passed while he was getting better. The HOA did not like that he was not finished, and even with his medical records and doctor's recommendations, they continued to interfere with his business, threatening to fine him and impose other penalties. It was only when he threatened to sue them that they ceased. Moved into an HOA-controlled bare land. Day 1, $150 fine for moving truck being parked on street and not in the driveway while they unloaded. Day 4, $150 fine for backing into my driveway as opposed to pulling straight in. Day 23, my wife planted flowers in pots and placed the pots on the front steps. Pots were okay, but the color of the plants she chose were not approved for this year, and they were not purchased from company XYZ. Ordered to have them removed immediately, $150 fine. Day 59, problems with my irrigation system. A break in the line someplace. I hired a company to come in and repair. Notification of $400 fine for not using the approved company, which happened to be Company XYZ. The list goes on and on. All these silly rules all pointed to residents being forced to deal with XYZ company. Lawn care, winterization of water lines, landscape purchases, recycle and removal, paint, etc., etc. I had enough. Finally had time to go to a meeting, complained about their regulations, felt that they were restrictive and arbitrary, told them that I'm refusing to pay any of the fines. They threatened me daily after that with everything from eviction to court. I took them to court instead. I filed a separate case for each complaint. In total, I had 14 lawsuits going, all being looked after by my brother who's a litigation lawyer. As it turned out, 5 of 5 members of the HOA were either owners or had interest in Company XYZ. They offered to drop the fines if I dropped the lawsuits. I told them to F off. They offered to allow me onto the board. I countered that they all have to quit and that new members be elected and a new charter written. They were all to be excluded from election and perpetually. They refused. Oh well, see you in court. Fast forward 1 year, defeat them in 19 out of 14 cases. I lost 1 case and 4 were dropped. The court removed the HOA members. The court froze the HOA assets as we had requested an accounting and there were major irregularities. Contracts assigned without resident approval, changes made to HOA charter without approval from residents, honorariums paid out to HOA members in the thousands of dollars. HOA was assigned a government housing body to assign a new HOA with 3 residents as members and 2 members to be assigned as unbiased and outside of the community. The members of the HOA were made personally financially responsible for all court costs. They had created a situation that benefited them financially, basically fraud. I ended up paying a total of $700 to cover my legal expenses. Don't ever tell my wife what color flowers she can have. Just don't do it. If you want to watch the part 6, click the link here. Thank you for subscribing to likes and comments. We're very happy to see you all in the comments too. Thanks for support.